Between the Matanzas and San Sebastian rivers in northeastern Florida is a tranquil haven of peace and calm. It is the oldest Marian shrine found in what is now the United States, and it is here that the gentle whispers of history blend with the spiritual serenity that many seek. This was the birth of the first parish in the United States, and eventually led to an extraordinary place of grace called the National Shrine of Our Lady of La Leche.
I'm Nell Angievsky, longtime director of the Chicago-based Catholic Church Tours. I'm now journeying to Catholic shrines across the country. Join me as we explore special places of prayer and devotion all over America, and discover shrines that are truly hidden gems.
When 16th century Spanish explorer Pedro Menendez de Avilés spotted this beautiful land on the northeast coast of Florida, he named it San Augustine, or St. Augustine, in honor of the saint upon whose feast day he had first sighted land. This later became the city of St. Augustine, Florida, America's first permanent European settlement north of Mexico and its oldest city. This is believed to be the spot at which Menendez landed and was the site of the Temuca village under the authority of Chief Saloy. As they approached the shore, a great number of Temucan were present for their arrival. In this place, Menendez claimed the land in El Nombre de Dios, or in the name of God. This would become the longest-running Franciscan mission during the Spanish mission period. Menendez's goal was to pave the way for the establishment of missions to evangelize Florida's Temuca, Guale, and Apalache people. The fleet's chaplain was a secular priest named Francisco Lopez de Mendoza Grajales. Not only was he the fleet's spiritual leader, but he kept a detailed log describing the historic passage and landing. Thus, we have a chronicle of the voyage and the establishment of the St. Augustine colony.
After the first year, Menendez began to have some problems with the Native Americans, and he decided to move his colony across the bay to what was and still is Anastasia Island. And he was over there for a couple of years before he decided to move back. But in moving back, he moved just a little bit farther south. So anyone who is familiar with present-day St. Augustine, what he built in that second attempt to start the colony here on the mainland is from that second effort. The colony never left the general geographic area. It just got moved south a little bit, and what ended up becoming the city of St. Augustine is from that next effort of Menendez to colonize the mainland.
The heart of this space of peace and tranquility is the National Shrine of Our Lady of La Leche. Many come to her under this title to ask for her tender intercession for their needs of fertility, for the health of their children, and safe deliveries.
Located on the sacred acre of Mission Nombre de Dios is a small chapel reflecting the Spanish-style mission of the 16th century. Outside of the entrance and below the mission bell stands the statue of St. Peter holding the keys to the kingdom given to him by Christ. Inside the chapel is a statue of Our Lady of La Leche, giving visitors a quiet place to pray and reflect. This figure of Mary as Our Lady of La Leche is unique among Marian devotions for many reasons. When the Spanish missionaries came to America, they brought with them their devotion to Nuestra Señora de la Leche Buen Parto, or Our Lady of the Milk and Happy Delivery. It is a title believed to have been brought to Spain by the Crusaders in the Middle Ages. Its roots are found in a 4th century grotto in Bethlehem, where Mary is said to have nursed the child Jesus. While images of the nursing Madonna are prevalent throughout Western Europe, a particular devotion to Our Lady of La Leche blossomed in Madrid during the reign of Philip III. The statue depicts Our Lady sitting with great love and dignity and tenderly nursing the infant Jesus. The devotion won the hearts of the Spanish people, and in the new land it quickly won the hearts of the Temuca, Guale, and Apalache Native Americans. It continued to spread as more Native Americans were converted and more missionaries, explorers, and colonists came to this continent. The earliest evidence of a chapel in this site is from archaeological foundations dating from 1677 to 1678 and discovered in 2014. After reacquiring the land from the United States government, the first diocesan bishop, Augustine built a chapel here in 1875 to restore the devotion. The current historic chapel was completed during the administration of Bishop Michael J. Curley. When a hurricane damaged it in 1926, Mrs. Amelia Hardin restored the chapel in memory of her husband, General Martin Hardin, a prominent Union general. The historic chapel stands under a canopy of oak and cedar trees and has become the center of devotion for thousands of women who come to pray for Our Lady's intercession in the difficulties of motherhood. Almost daily, women appear at the shrine to offer thanksgiving for petitions granted regarding pregnancy and childbearing. Additionally, men and women from all walks of life arrive, seeking the consolation and intercession of this most tender of mothers in a wide variety of concerns. While visiting, we must not miss the opportunity to spend time in the historic chapel. While it is a small and simple chapel, it is at the same time exquisite. About 30 people can comfortably be seated inside. It is simply furnished with a votive candle stand in the back, with a book available for prayer intentions. Stations of the cross on the side walls, wooden benches, and a plain wooden altar in the front. Humble stained glass windows let in a splash of Floridian sunlight. The chapel's simplicity adds to its allure, while at the same time compelling those who enter to focus on the canonically coronated statue of Our Lady of La Leche, which rests on a pedestal in an alcove behind the altar. Our Lady of La Leche is so graceful and modest, so tender and loving, that this depiction of her nursing the child seems perfectly natural, just as any mother nursing her child. The first statue brought by Spanish colonists to St. Augustine returned to Cuba during the Spanish withdrawal in 1763 has been lost. The current statue is a modern image, yet just as beautiful and meaningful.
We have different type of people who visit the shrine. We have those who are Catholic, those who live the Catholic faith, and they come here frequently for daily Mass, to have an encounter with Jesus in the Holy Sacrament of the Eucharist, the confession. We have those Catholics who do not practice their faith frequently, but they come here to pray, or because their prayer were answered, and they come here to give thanks to our Blessed Mother for her intercession. Or sometimes they come here to ask Him for a special need, and also to enjoy the beauty of this place.
This is the site of the first Catholic Mass in the United States of America. Pedro Menendez and his companions knelt here to give glory to God and to receive the Holy Eucharist.
On the same day of their landing, September 8, 1565, Father Lopez offered a Mass of Thanksgiving, the first parish Mass on the continental United States. The Mass was offered at a rustic, makeshift altar that was little more than logs pieced together. Those gathered around the altar were General Pedro Menendez, his colonists, soldiers, and the descendants of the Timucuan Indians who had lived on these shores since before the time of Christ. It is noteworthy that the Mass was celebrated here, and the blessing of God was sought even before the first step was taken to raise a human habitation. Following the liturgy, Pedro Menendez hosted a wonderful feast for the Spaniards and their new native friends, the Timucua. It is also likely that the Timucua contributed native fare such as turkey, venison, fish, corn, beans, and squash. The current altar is an interpretation of what the original altar could have looked like. Each year, on a Saturday close to the founding date of September 8th, a Mass is celebrated at this altar following a reenactment of the landing of Pedro Menendez and Father Lopez for Founders Day.
When we speak about evangelization here in Florida and the attempt to draw Timucua and other indigenous peoples into the church, we think about not only how they came to the faith,
but what was the model that the Franciscans used when they came here? So, for example, when Francis of Assisi talked to his friars about evangelization, what he would say is you can go into a town, and there's two ways you can do this. You go into the town and you preach, or you simply live the life of a good Christian, and people will begin to ask you what drives you, what motivates you, what inspires you. So it's very significant that when we talk about missions, we're not talking about big complexes, because in the beginning, individual friars were placed in individual indigenous communities, which already is quite a challenge because they're used to living together. They were accepted in many cases into the village, and then they started to educate. They started to educate the children. And very soon we have Tumukwa, girls and boys, who are not only learning their own language, but are studying Spanish and attending prayers probably on a daily basis in Latin.
As we walk near the Great Cross, we might imagine what it would have been like for the first explorers and priests, families, and tradesmen to first set foot on this land after an arduous ocean passage.
At the end of an extended breezy walkway towards the shore of the Matanzas Bay stands what is known as the Great Cross, a 208-foot stainless steel cross representing the no longer standing large wooden cross erected by Father Lopez upon his arrival. The present cross was erected in 1965 and completed in 1966. Like the Prince of Peace votive church, the Great Cross was constructed to celebrate the 400th birthday of Christianity in this land and the founding of the city of St. Augustine. The cross is a monument to the growth and spread of Christianity and the numerous missions throughout Florida and beyond. It serves as a reminder of Christ's ultimate sacrifice on the cross, as well as the vital role of the Catholic religion in the history of both Florida and the United States. The Great Cross is the tallest, freestanding cross in the Western Hemisphere. The base of the cross is covered with granite slabs, several of which have names inscribed as memorials from family or other loved ones. It can be seen from miles around and is a majestic reminder to all that this land has been claimed for God. Near the Great Cross is a splendid bronze statue of Father Francisco Lopez de Mendoza Grajales, chaplain of Menendez's fleet, and the celebrant of the first parish mass. The statue stands 11 feet tall and was crafted by Dr. Ivan Mistrovic, a native of Croatia. It portrays Father Lopez in priestly vestments preaching the gospel, having gone ashore the night before Menendez and his retinue disembarked. Father Lopez met them the next morning by processing with a large cross and singing the Latin hymn Te Deum Laudamus, or God we praise you. General Menendez, followed by all who accompanied him on the voyage, marched up to the cross, knelt, and kissed it. Menendez then proclaimed this land in el nombre de Dios, in the name of God, raised the King of Spain's flag, and proclaimed the land for Spain. Father Lopez is considered the first parish priest and a pastor of the United States. Immediately south of the Great Cross stands the mission plaque, a bronze plaque memorializing the nearly 200 missions established by the Spanish in the First Spanish period between 1565 and 1763 to evangelize the native people. Diocesan priests from Spain began the initial missionary work in St. Augustine, but later Pedro Menendez petitioned the Jesuit order for more missionaries. Hostile encounters with nearby tribes forced the Jesuits out of the area, and they withdrew entirely by 1573. In 1578, Franciscan priests arrived and continued the work until 1763. Mission work was carried out under extreme hardships and dangerous circumstances. It extended from Mission Nombre de Dios as far west as Pensacola and as far north as the Chesapeake Bay. This plaque is a tribute to the courageous missionaries and the missions they founded in the Florida region.
The National Shrine of Our Lady of La Leche is filled with special places for prayer and meditation, including a shrine to Our Lady of Guadalupe and one to Our Lady of Perpetual Help. And the Floridian landscape offers a great opportunity to reflect on the glories of God's creation.
Scattered throughout the grounds are many opportunities for visitors to deepen their faith and grow closer to God and to His Mother Mary. An outdoor Stations of the Cross and 7 Sorrows of Mary beckon the faithful to walk with Mary and Jesus along the road to Calvary. Statues of various saints remind us of those who have gone before us and who have lived exemplary lives of faith and courage. Pathways provide a quiet place to pray and converse with God. The Dr. Michael Gannon Bridge extends over a small waterway, and other bridges speckle the property. Restful garden areas offer places to sit and contemplate amidst God's lovely handiwork. A special devotional attraction is the Rosary Garden, which opened in conjunction with the Canonical coronation in 2021. Each rosary bead is 16 times larger than those of a typical rosary, and it is crafted from blue calcite collected in Madagascar. The beads are linked together with a stainless steel chain 30 inches above the ground, making it accessible to children and the visually impaired. In addition to the 7-foot crucifix made from red cedar trees that had been destroyed by recent hurricanes, the centerpiece of the garden is a coquita grotto with an image of Our Lady of La Leche. The Rosary Garden is the perfect place to pray and meditate on the lives of Jesus and Mary.
In the center of Mission Nombre de Dios is an archaeological dig that has artifacts and structures of the original mission building dating back to the 16th century.
First discovered in the 1950s by then mission director and amateur archaeologist Father Charles Spellman, the archaeological site is near to the historic chapel. Today, the dig is being conducted by researchers from the University of Florida in collaboration with Flagler College. The archaeological team has slowly and meticulously unearthed some of the most important discoveries in the history of St. Augustine, including the foundation of a 17th century chapel and friary. This structure was the chief's own home, and he offered it to Menendez for his comfort and as a sign of goodwill.
Even more recently, we have been working here at the shrine, actually after 2011. An interesting event happened when the diocesan archives were moved from Mandarin to St. Augustine to the new archive building. And the archivist there, Sister Kathy Blitzer, when she was getting things organized, found records, and she thought, these look like archaeological cards or maps. And she called Erik, who was the director of the park at the time, and she called me and said, are you interested in looking at these? Do these look like they might be archaeology? And we said, yes. And it turned out that Father Charles Spellman, who was the director of the shrine in the 1950s, and he was an avocational archaeologist, wanted to find the shrine and did some exploratory digs, and he found what turned out to be the stone shrine. But he didn't really publish that or write it up, and he put his materials in the archive. And when we got those, we thought, well, let's try and recapture what he first found. And that happened in 2011. And so we've come back for 3 more excavation years after that and uncovered a stone building and an adjacent tabby building that were way bigger than anything we imagined.
This land, affectionately known as the Sacred Acre, is marked by the graves of those who've played an important role in the formation and development of Mission Nombre de Dios.
Walking the grounds, one can see gravestones. There are also graves of 6 U.S. colored troops buried here after the United States Civil War. Finally, we see 6 graves of the Sisters of St. Joseph of St. Augustine. The sisters were invited by the diocese's first bishop to teach liberated slaves after the Civil War. These graves help us recall the sacrifices of those who have contributed to the mission of this sacred place.
The Church of Our Lady of La Leche echoes the shrine of the same name. It is here that important celebrations are held, including the 2019 Canonical coronation of Our Lady of La Leche.
The shrine of Our Lady of La Leche originally was built as a votive chapel to the Prince of Peace. It is located toward the south entrance of the mission grounds. Commissioned by the Archbishop Joseph P. Hurley and built in 1965 to commemorate the mission's 400th anniversary, this sturdy church was dedicated to prayer for God's protection from atomic warfare during the Cold War. Former director of the Mission Nombre de Dios and historian Dr. Michael Gannon oversaw the building project. It is built of local coquina, a natural rock formation consisting of limestone and small particles of broken seashells that form a strong building material. The coquina was artfully cut with a diamond saw to ensure smooth edges, unlike other structures built of the same material. An impressive, brightly colored window depicting the Holy Spirit hovers above the church entrance. At the invitation of Bishop Felipe Estevez, priests from the Immaculate Conception community in Colombia serve the shrine. Today, priests from the community live next to the grounds and provide pastoral care and pilgrimage planning and support. They also offer special Marian spiritual seminars for pilgrimage groups. The sacrament of confession and Holy Mass are offered daily, as well as the exposition of the Blessed Sacrament, the rite of blessing a child in the womb, the chaplet of divine mercy, and the rosary. In 2019, the Shrine of Our Lady of La Leche was elevated to a national shrine by the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops. This status means that it is formally designated as a place where the faithful may make pilgrimage. The Holy Father, Pope Francis, has recognized the importance and sanctity of Our Lady of La Leche devotion by granting a canonical coronation. This rare honor of distinction, granted only by the Pope to images of Jesus, Mary, or Joseph that have great devotion in their local community and should be honored more broadly in the Church. The coronation took place on Sunday, October 10, 2021, at the Cathedral Basilica of St. Augustine. The coronation was officiated by Cardinal Carlos Osoro Sierra, Archbishop of Madrid and Papal Envoy. The Diocese of St. Augustine Bishop, Most Reverend Felipe J. Estevez, and Archdiocese of Miami Archbishop Most Reverend Thomas G. Wensky. The ornate golden crown was sculpted in northern Italy and now graces the head of the coronated statue of Our Lady of La Leche in the historic chapel. A smaller version of the same crown rests upon the head of the child Jesus in his mother's arms. The canonical coronation of Our Lady of La Leche is one of only 4 Marian coronations in the United States.
The devotion to Mary across the world is one that people have been drawn to for countless centuries, since the beginning, when we first understood that Mary was chosen by God for this role in salvation. There's always been an understanding of Mary's place in the life of God's plan, in the life of the Church, and people gravitate to her as our own mother. So if you go around the world, you see lots of traditions that have people identifying Mary as their own mother. So you see images of Mary that reflect that, the face of Mary reflecting the face of the people of a particular country, and different ways that Mary is honored. At times it is a statue or an image that grows as a place of prayer. At other times it's the result of an apparition of Mary. And as faithful people have looked for ways to honor Mary, and as we understand her place in God's plan, there has been a frequent devotion of a crowning of Mary, a recognition of her place as Queen and Mother. To have a canonical coronation is a designation that connects it directly to the Holy Father. So the Pope is the one that grants the permission for a canonical coronation. So then it becomes recognized as a devotion not just for the local church, but for the universal church. An invitation to the whole world to come and recognize a particular image of Mary, a particular aspect of her life, and certainly with Our Lady of La Leche, it is the connection to mothers. To have this image of Mary crowned with the canonical coronation is to say that this is worth the devotion of the whole church as well as our local church.
The popularity of the National Shrine of Our Lady of La Leche has grown to an astonishing extent over the years. It's not uncommon for tour groups with as many as 2,000 to 3,000 people to visit the mission and shrine, often overwhelming the facilities. When in 2015 the Prince of Peace votive church was reconsecrated as the shrine church of Our Lady of La Leche, the building was enlarged by 2,500 square feet. This made room for Our Lady of Fatima prayer room in the Prince of Peace Tower, where prayers for peace continue. The second phase of the expansion of the grounds included upgrades to the bridges and bulkheads previously damaged by Hurricane Matthew. The new Pilgrim Center now includes a large meeting and retreat room to accommodate groups and a covered outdoor pavilion. An emphasis on evangelization has been added to the shrine's mission, marked by the re-establishment of the Confraternity of Our Lady of La Leche by Bishop Estevez in 2019.
Finally, we arrive at the museum at the National Shrine of Our Lady of La Leche. It holds many surprises and valuable information about the missionaries who first stepped foot here in 1565.
The Shrine Museum is a fascinating place, with displays depicting the history of the mission from its inception to current times. Here we can find two dioramas, the first parish mass in 1565, and a model of historic St. Augustine as it was after 1572, when Nuestra Señora de los Remedios was the parish church. Period artifacts, carefully preserved, have been respectfully placed in glass cases for all to see. One can view 16th century sacred vessels used for the Catholic Mass, much like those used by Father Francisco Lopez during the first Holy Mass on this continent, north of Mexico. The most astounding artifact in the museum is the actual coffin in which Pedro Menendez was buried when he returned to Spain. The coffin was acquired through the efforts of John B. Stetson, Jr. and transported to St. Augustine.
I hope you have enjoyed our time here at the National Shrine of Our Lady of La Leche, and I invite you to come to this holy place with its enduring history. Until we meet again, at the next Hidden Gems, Our Lady of La Leche, pray for us.